Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the third week of the EDL pregame show. This is your host, Exernian, and I'm joined by the one and only duo, Clutch and Matt Pizza. So, we're just going to start right with last week. And just a quick run over what happened last week. We had MIT versus Revolution, which was our stream game, and MIT won 2-0. And then we had Subversive Gaming against Chicago Dragons, and the Chicago Dragons pulled out a 2-1 against them. And we had Burger Flip Esports versus CB Rookies, and CB Rookies came ahead 2-1. Matt Pizza, what were your thoughts on the stream game?
So MIT versus Rev. Um, to be honest, we didn't expect this, or at least I didn't expect this to be a quick 2-0, 2-0. Um, I more thought it would go to a full like best of three series, but I think the jungle changes were too much for Rev to handle. Like we saw from week one that Rev's jungle is their carry player,
Mm-hmm.
but with the jungle changes that hit, he just wasn't able to be as impactful as he was the previous week.
Yeah, I agree. And I think MIT after the first week they were coming in we lost to Subversive, but we're coming in with a stronger mental, and I think they were like getting used to each other, and they finally were able to kind of lock down their strategies. And I know
Mhm.
that last week it was definitely like Revolution favored. It was like you voted 2-1, Clutch voted 2-1, and then I was really torn. Like I knew that MIT had it in them, but I didn't think
Mhm.
it was gonna be a 2-0. But
Yeah,
I'm
we did
not
see
surprised.
MIAT's ADC stepping up thievery.
Oh
You
yeah,
pop he popped off game one with a
fasting
12-2
Senna, the
Senna, fasting
fasting
Senna.
Senna. I know. And then Crockpot they brought in this week, or I guess last week now, and he played the volley bear, which I didn't expect either.
Hmm. It was you don't really see fasting Senna with a volley burst support, but I mean hey, it worked out and
Yeah, like
they
if it works, don't fix what ain't broke.
yep. So what are your thoughts, Cole?
Huh? On the stream game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I think early on, both teams looked like it was going to be really close, especially game one. We don't talk about how we missed half the game because my internet cut out. Um, but, it was looking pretty close. I mean, the bot lane, the Volley Bear Senna bot lane was like smurfing. That was pretty cool to see. And, the rest of the map was doing fine, but the game was ultimately pretty close. But then I don't know, a switch just turned and MIT said, okay, it's time to stop screwing around, and then they just absolutely slaughtered Rev. And then game two, it's the same thing. It wasn't very close either. They were kind of just Rev kind of just got absolutely destroyed after MIT decided to flip the switch. I don't know what happened, but something happened, and yeah, they kind of started smurfing. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, like it was just I don't know, I don't feel like a lot of people really expected because again, MIT did look a little bit weaker after losing week 1, and then I remember talking to them on the podcast and they're like, "No, I think we're still the favorites to win." So, their matchup this week against they're against Burger Flip. So, I don't think it'll be too hard for MIT, but I think this will just keep accelerating their lead, and then as the season goes on, they'll just become stronger.
Hmm.
All right, so then the next game was Subversive Gaming, so that was 2-1 for Chicago Dragons, though, that
Hmm.
series. So, Clutch, what do you think happened in their series? Because it was Subversive did win the first game, and then Chicago Dragons reverse swept them.
I watched a little bit of this. It seemed that Chicago Dragons individually were very good, but Subversive as a team played better. So it was like I said, it was kind of like the styles clashing of is the team fight team going to be better, or is it going to be the just individual skill gap? And I guess in the end, it was the individual skill gap players winning. I think both teams, like, it was really close. I think it could have went either way. And if both these teams do make playoffs and end up playing each other, I think that would be a really good series, because it is
Mm-hmm.
the two teams that have a lot of potential. And already week two, we see that Chicago Dragons are a way better team than a lot of people thought. And going into the future, week 3 and onward, we're gonna have to see how they are going to play against some of these better teams because they still have to play MIT. I believe they have to play Rev 2 and
Yep.
Burger Flip, which are
Yep.
like not easy to beat teams, right? They are pretty good teams in their own right, even though BFE's 0-2. So we'll see how they play. I think Subversive, unfortunately, they did lose this week. But you did lose to Chicago, who's ranked number 6, but it's not the end of the world. Like, you are 1-1. There are 4 teams tied at 1-1. It's basically where you started at the beginning of the season. I think just week 3 and onward is going to be really important for this team.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's like
Mhm.
it's really interesting to see because these first two matches kept the teams 1-1 with each other, except the next match, which is Burger Flip and Chubby Babies rookies. But Matt Pizza, do you have any other thoughts on the Subversive and Chicago Dragons games?
Yeah, so game 2, right? When Chicago Dragons got their first win of the series, we sat at the top, and ADC just kind of like gapped the rest of the team. Like, top was 12-1, and their
Mm-hmm.
ADC was 11-1. That was like, I did not expect to see that one coming in from like a team that got 0-2 just the previous week. So their top and ADC really started pulling the weight, and that even continued on to game 2, where, I mean, granted the top didn't do as well, but their ADC still kept lifting the team up, trying to carry the team as
Yep.
much as he can.
Yeah, and I feel like we always just kind of had our eyes on Chicago Dragons mid laner Skeet, and then
Mhm.
we saw them bring in this new top laner, and their ADCs are like they started both doing really well, like you said. So I think that maybe Chicago Dragons is starting to see more of what their team can and can't do, and like start figuring out who is actually their carry, right? And like
Mhm.
now, was it Skeet or is it now this Noodle or is it a Tesla Model 3, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, like again, Chicago Dragons does have a lot of potential. And I think that Subversive, they like I still think they have a lot of potential too. Like as these two rookie teams, I know that Chicago Dragons did pull ahead in this series, but again, like if they do ever meet each other again in playoffs, then I think I could definitely see Subversive like kind of pulling ahead because like we all mentioned before, like they're a really good team fighting team. They play as one like really good cohesive unit.
Mhm.
So I think that the later the season goes on, both these teams could be I think they could be top 3, top 4 teams. But again, it depends on like how much they develop and kind of
Yeah,
how the other teams go.
and it is, let's say, 5 week league, so they they have a
Yeah.
lot of room. They have a lot of room to develop, but not a lot of time to develop. So
I
let's see
mentioned
if
this in
they'll
the
be able
podcast that no one's listened to yet, but it's the Elemental Development League, not the Elemental we're already really good at the game league.
to. Mhm.
Exactly.
Exactly. Okay, so the last game of that we're gonna see here is Burger Flip versus Chubby Babies rookies, so CB rookies. And with this match, it was the only match that kept the teams on the win and losing streak. So Burger Flip has yet to get a win in a series, and CB rookies has yet to take a loss. So do you think that like their morale on each team is just a huge difference now? Matt Pizza, what do you think?
Um, I think it's kind of the opposite, right? Like, granted, BFE is 0-2 right now, but I mean they're at the bottom of the
Mm-hmm.
bottom, right?
Yeah, they
Like they
did
have
drop
nothing
to
to lose.
6 on my
Yeah.
power. Yeah.
They have nothing to lose. So
They
I
have
mean,
nothing to lose.
this is when they like this is when they start smurfing on everyone, right? They turn on the hacks. They're like, you know what, guys? I don't care what's going on. We're fighting. We're fighting to win. All right, we're not gonna go down without a fight.
But
Like they just band together and they're just like, yeah, let's do this. And then it's the comeback. They're gonna go 3-2, right? Like that's my hope for
Well,
the
the
for this
thing
team.
is though, if Burgerfoot loses their game this like their games this week, they'll be at 0-3, and I don't think they'll have a chance at playoffs
Yeah,
because they
but
are the only winless team, like I said.
but but listen, you gotta believe in the team, right? It's the element of development league, right? Like
Okay,
we
we
gotta
believe
hope.
in their development.
Hmm.
Well,
And what about you, Cole? What do you think?
Yeah, Clutch, what are your thoughts on the series here?
Um, all I know is CBR lost Chef Boy, so they're gonna be a little bit weaker. And
Oh
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, Chef Boy's
they
not on the
did.
no,
team anymore,
Chef
so
Boy.
they lost one of their better players. I'm not gonna say he's their best, but he is a very good player, and they don't have him anymore. So to me, Chef Baby's rookies are a little bit weaker, and the fact that they lost a game to the team that's in last is a little bit like scary. Like, I mean, looking at these games, like they could have easily lost this series. And BFE could easily be 1-1. The good news for BFE is they have a really hard start to the schedule. Like they are playing the really good teams, and their last 2 weeks are Chicago Dragons and Subversive. So theoretically, you could go 0-3, beat Subversive, beat Chicago, and just hope like some like miraculous tiebreaker happens. And since you beat both of them, you make playoffs. So it is still possible to make playoffs at 2-3. It is hard, but I think Burger Flip, right now, like they're taking games off of teams, and they're not just like getting 2-0.
Yeah, that's what
Like
I'm
other
thinking too.
teams.
Like I know that they haven't won a series, but I think they're still a good team because like you said, in the first week they took a game off of Rev, like in a game that they really shouldn't have won, but they did. And with CB rookies, like they were still able to pull a game off of them too. And that game wasn't
Yep.
like super like it wasn't a crazy stomp, but it was still like, you could tell they played really well.
Yeah, I think this week, Um, I mean, if they can beat MIT, I think they will make playoffs 100% because I think they can beat Chicago and Subversive. I think if
Hmm.
they lose this week, um, it's going to be really hard. If they lose this week, they have to win the next two. Like you can't go 1-4 and make playoffs. It's just not going to happen. So you would have to beat Chicago and Subversive, who are both on the upswing. So it's gonna be a little hard for Burger Flip, but the good news is that like they are showing signs of life, and they're for an 0-2 team, they don't play like an 0-2 team. They play like a 1-1 team because they could
Hmm.
easily be 1-1. Like in my opinion, I think Burger Flip is like at the same tier for me as Chicago and Subversive. I think they're like all the same skill level right now, despite Burger Flip being 0-2. I think they all look the same.
Yeah, I think
Um,
all of the teams are actually really, really close. And it's why it's kind of
yeah,
hard for me to write the power ranking sometimes because it's like, well, this team is 0-2, but like they are still playing well and they are taking games off of good teams that I'm putting like way higher. So,
Yeah, the only thing I would say is like I think CBR and MIT are the defined top two in the league for me, at least at this moment when we are recording this. I think they are the like that top two, and then I think everyone else is like equal. Like I
mhm.
think they are all equal in skill, and anyone can beat anyone in there. Like it is just a clump of teams. Obviously, MIT did lose week one to Subversive, and I think that was an upset that like really wasn't supposed to happen, but I mean it did, which props Subversive. But CBR and MIT for me are just top two, and then yeah, huge. Just everyone's clumped together. They're all the same skill level, and it's just gonna matter who beats who when they do play each other.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so we'll go on to the first match of this week, and which is, like we mentioned, Burger Flip versus MIT. And we all said 2-0 for MIT. Matt Pizza, your thoughts?
So I know that we were talking about how Burger Flip is gonna like uh
That
develop and like
Oh, I,
like
I thought that was you because you were the one who was just like, yeah, BFE Redemption Arc 3 and 2.
True. I was
yeah,
like
yeah,
kind of
the
surprised when you
redemption
told
arc.
me that your redemption was not in like Burger
It's
Flips,
not. It's not yet. It's not this week.
not
At least
yet.
like
Oh, so yeah,
Is
yeah.
Kuma listening
Okay,
or
so
what?
so they're not 3 and 2, they're 2 and 3. Oh, I got it.
uh, listen. I like. I think that BFE is a good team, but they are going against MIT, right? And MIT is like they're just one of the better teams in the league, right? Like as much as I hope that like BFE might be able to win this series or even take a game off, I think realistically, like this is a hard match to like win. Like
Yeah.
especially with BFE still like their original roster from week one, um, kind of got screwed up with their top leaving and a new top joining, so they still only have been playing with this top for like 2 weeks,
Well,
right?
the thing is, to MIT, their other support left, and
Hmm.
That is
then
true.
Oh, that's true. I
yeah,
did not know about that. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, I still think with what we've seen, I think MIT is just the stronger team in this series.
Yeah, I think also why I also said it was a 2-0 for them is because I mean MIT is coming in from like a previous 2-0, right? And even though like the odds were kind of against them and everyone kind of thought, "Oh, Rev is going to win." And then MIT's like, "No, watch this," as they pull out a 2-0, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, maybe
Yep.
this will backfire. Maybe they're like, "Oh yeah, everyone believes in us this week," and then they lose.
And then yeah.
Oh no. But yeah, those are my thoughts going into the game. I definitely think that MIT is they're able to pull out like what we said, they're able to pull out stuff like fasting Senna, right? And like
Hmm.
as a team that's been playing together for like what, like 2 and some weeks now, like I don't know. I think that just shows that they're already like a good team.
Hmm.
That's just gonna get better, in my opinion. Yeah, Clutch, what are your thoughts? You also said 2-0 for MIT.
Um, yeah, I did say 2-0 MIT. Um, what I will say, just to defend BFE a little bit, because I do think MIT is going to win. But what I will say is BFE almost beat Chubby Babies, and Chubby Babies are the number one team in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So, in theory, MIT is tied at, I mean, second through fifth. Um, and if BFE can take a game off of the number one team and almost beat them, and MIT is your theoretical second place team, um, it could be really close. But I just think that as of right now, I would say that MIT is going to 2-0. I don't think it's going to be an absolute stomp. I think Burger Flip will they're going to contest with them. But I think just MIT is getting into form and they're looking like a really good team. And after last week, like you can't say they're not going no. Like
Yeah, this is my number one power ranking team
they
versus like my
slammed Red.
sixth one. So yeah,
Mhm.
again, I don't think it's actually gonna be a hard stomp, even though I said it was 2-0 for MIT. I think it's just gonna be like two close games, and then MIT
Yeah.
will just pull ahead in these two. Who do you think is the player to watch for each team? So Matt Pizza, who do you think is the player to watch on Burger Flip?
On Burger Flip, it's probably going to have to be their ADC, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
from the previous week, we see that BNG is like the carry player. When he does well, the team generally does well as well. Like, he'll be able to like, he's a good. I don't want to say he's a carry. He's a carry player. He
Mm-hmm.
tries his best to carry, but he is playing an ADC, right? There's only so much that you can do. So I think for BFE, it relies a lot on their bot lane and whether or not they're ahead and if they'll be able to snowball and take over the game.
I think for me, I think my eyes are on Serm, their mid
Hmm.
laner. Like I think that um like just looking at like how CERN played last week, like even though there's a game they lost, CERN went 9-3-8
Hmm.
on Diana, and then BNJ went 11-3-5 on Jinx, right? Like I think those two players are definitely players to watch. And Blood Beast also went 3-3-16 on Trundle. So I want to go back to like my week zero people to watch, like Blood Beast and CERM. I think that maybe like I don't know how their experience is with the rest of their team,
Hmm.
but I think that maybe like I don't know. I feel like I'm starting to see them start to slowly kind of like mold together with the rest of the team, and it's starting like the pieces are starting to fit. You know.
Yeah. Hmm.
So that's my player to watch for Burger Flip and Clutch. What about you?
Uh, weren't we supposed to say our player to watch for MIT too? Are we just doing
Uh,
BFE then MIT or
yeah,
what?
yeah.
BFE. So I'll just I'm not gonna say the same thing as you guys. So I will say their top laner because we've seen him for 1 week. I have no clue who this person is, and
Wasn't he an
I want
E-sub?
yeah, but I think he's gonna be playing
No,
this week,
they
right?
they got a
Or
new
no?
top laner.
Did they?
Yeah.
Is it not the same person?
I don't believe so.
Okay, no, it's not. Well, still, I want to see how this person plays because they look like a support main, and that'll be interesting to see how a support main plays in the top lane. Um, but yeah, for sure, gonna look at this
Their top laner
it's
is yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry, you're right.
Genzi.
Yeah.
right? Or what?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Quincy.
So I want to see how they play because we haven't seen them play. And I want to see what they bring to the table. Hopefully they can help their team out, play some tanks, be some good engage. I have no clue how this person's going to play, so we'll see after week 3 how they are going to be.
Yeah, all right. That's that. Okay, so
Mhm.
back to you, Matt Pizza. What about MIT? Who's your player to
Am I?
watch?
Mm, I'm. I don't want to pick two ADCs in a row, but but that's exactly what I'm gonna do.
That's what he's gonna do. Okay.
That's exactly what I'm gonna do. Cause I want to see how Thievery plays this thing. Cause like in week 2, we just saw that he took over the game. I'm granted the top lane also helped out, but he was able to take over the game and he like destroyed on Senna and I forgot what the other champion he played was, but he just destroyed in the ADC. So I want to see if he'll be able to do the same thing against BFE. I just think that whichever ADC gets ahead is the ADC that's gonna take over the game.
That's true. Thievery, yeah, I did like the Senna pick, and then the next game that they played, what did they play next game? Oh, Caitlyn. Yeah, so Caitlyn Morgana was their next game. So no, like I
Hmm.
definitely think Thievery is a good player. I think my player to watch. I think if they play Crockpot again, if
Hmm.
he's playing again this week, then like I mean, if I could play Volibear support like that, yeah, I would totally do that if I could. And then like just watching them play Morgana as well in Caitlyn Morgana, like obviously I've played that lane before, and like just seeing how they played Morgana, like there was I think it was like they ran forward and then they like killed someone and they like lived with like 2 HP and then they were running away. I think Crockpot ended up dying um to Keith, but it was like I don't know. I thought about it and I was like, Matt, I would definitely not done done that. So
Yep.
yeah, like I think Crockpot's playstyle is something just why I want to keep my eyes on him. Yeah, what about you, Clutch?
Uh, their mid laner. Did we talk about their mid? I have
Oh,
no clue to
Annie?
be honest. Yeah, Annie. I think she had a pretty good performance on Zoe in the game she played. I believe she played
Oh
Zoe.
yeah, when she picked up like 3 flashes and just like
Yeah, yeah, that was
halfway across the map.
early balance champ.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, I want to see if they're ever gonna get Zoe ever again.
Oh, true.
That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, just want to see how they go up against Serm this week because I mean Serm I think is one of the better players on BFE, and he's one of their more staple players, and it's gonna be a real test for Annie in the mid lane if she can lane against Serm because Serm is probably one of the best mids in the league despite being on an 0-2 team.
Hmm.
So we'll have to see how she goes up against him for sure.
I think an unsung hero of MIT is definitely their top laner, Wales. He changed his name to Basting this second, but I think he played like really well that entire series too. Like he went 338 on Kale and then 515 on Cho'Gath, right? Like and then he was only 1 KP behind the jungler actually, Ambition. So and I don't know, I think he's like a good top laner if he's like there to show up and he like, doesn't run it obviously.
Yeah,
I think
and it's
he's
like,
definitely a really solid player. Like he's very consistent. That's the word.
hmm
Okay, so we'll go on to the next game of the week. So we have Chicago Dragons 1-1 versus Revolution, who is also 1-1. Um, everyone said 2-1 for Revolution except me. I said 2-0 for Rev. So let's start with Clutch this time. Why did you think 2-1 for Rev?
Um, so I think for me, I think Chicago Dragons have looked a lot better than last week, especially than people really thought they would. And MIT kind of just slammed the Rev, which to me puts those teams closer in the standings, especially since they're all 1-1. Rev and Chicago Dragons have the exact same record and the exact same game differential. Um, so I think for me,
Ouch.
no matter what, this is going to game 3. It's a 50-50 who wins, but I'm just going to say Rev is going to win because I think it's just Chicago Dragons have newer players, and I think Rev, um, at least for themselves, have some pretty good veteran players on their team, and I think that after losing to MIT, they're really going to want to bounce back with a strong performance, especially against a team that theoretically they should be.
Yeah, I mean, like, Revolution did start off really strong in their week one. They beat Burger Flip almost a 2-0, but it wasn't after they dropped their second game against them. But, like, and last week too, like, Rev was favored against MIT, and this week again, like, I think that Revolution does have a really talented roster, and I think all the players are really good. And against Chicago Dragons, like what we saw from the stream game and just like bits of pieces I saw against their game against Versive, and I think that Chicago Dragons also, they do have good players, but I think right now Revolution is still a more cohesive unit. They still play more as five, and I think that that'll just make the difference. That's why I said 2-0 for Rev. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
Surprise.
we're in
come on.
sync, Matt Pizza.
Okay, so I think I kind of have to go on the same lines as Cole, right? Like, it's gonna be a close series, I think, because Chicago Dragons last week they were able to like they were starting to just find their groove, right? I mean, obviously it was a 2-1, so they did drop a game, but they were like starting to get the hang of playing with each other, getting the hang of like this whole entire macro gameplay that they kind of lacked from week one.
Mm-hmm.
And now with the early game lead that they were able to like consistently get, they were able to transition into a late game win. So hopefully they could do it again. But like Cole did say, MIT's or not MIT, Chicago Dragons is a newer team, whereas the other team they're a bit of an older team, right? They have the old blood in them to
Yeah, I
like,
think it just comes down to experience, like you're saying.
hmm
Yep.
and like veterans they see things that newer players don't see.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I kind of have to say it's
You always believe in the underdog story.
Bit of a gap.
That's why you
mhm,
gave them the one game though.
I had to. It's Chicago Dragons. I believe in the underdog story, but not this week.
It's not
Not this
even
week
the
too.
underdog story. You didn't even believe in them last week.
Well,
Yeah,
I
come on, man.
believed in them last week. Did I not? There's no way. I believed in them unless I'm unless I got peer pressured into believing otherwise. If
I
that's the
don't
case, then
believe
I
in
just
them,
blame
not gonna
Clutch.
lie.
You
Um,
said
yo,
2-1 subversive for
I blame
last
Clutch.
week.
Clutch went
what
into my
do you
ear and
mean
was just like,
then?
"Yeah, listen,
You
don't
didn't
worry."
even say Chicago Dragons was gonna win last week. You're saying they're not gonna win this week. I don't know. I don't know if you believe in this underdog story.
Well, it's reverse psychology, right? Like I'm gonna say they're not gonna win, but then they're gonna win, and I'm like, yeah, it was all
This
me.
guy's gonna predict the opposite team every time, and then when the opposite team like ends up losing, the one time they lose, he's like, yeah, I knew it.
I
Reverse
knew it.
psychology. It was all me.
Yeah, I knew it.
Yep.
I knew it.
I,
Okay,
I
Matt
I I
Pizza.
actually just predicted. Like you guys
Yeah.
said, listen to the podcast.
Always a time traveler, this guy. Okay.
Hmm
Yeah.
So then we'll go to our players to watch. Let's start with Chicago Dragons. Matt Pizza. You believe in the underdogs, right? Yeah.
I believe in the underdogs, and I believe that their top lane was smurfing. In his first debut game last week, like, oh my god, 12-1 on Wukong. Please teach me how to play Wukong
Okay,
like
but
that.
their first game they lost.
Okay, okay,
Where this
their
noodle
Little
went
bit
second
of a
game.
2
creeper here.
7 and 8 on Renekton. So that
Yeah,
was their
see,
debut game with the team, actually.
no,
Yeah, a little
that
bit of
game
a
doesn't
creeper.
count.
That game
Okay, he
doesn't
was just
count.
warming up. That was the warm up game for him. Okay, now
Uh,
he was warmed up. Everything was ready to go on game two, and then he just absolutely smurfed it. So that's my player
Let's
to watch.
go.
What about you, Cole?
My player to watch. Hold on, I need to see something real quick just to confirm what I'm about to say here.
Uh
Okay,
huh.
so I'm gonna say they're jungler. I want to see him play something that's not Udyr because he played it 3 games in a row.
True.
Uh,
We're gonna
like
have to talk to the person who drafts for them.
you know,
Shifty.
Yeah.
their
Uh-huh.
jungler played Udyr 3 games in a row, and I'm not saying he's a bad Udyr. He played okay. But I kind of want to see a little bit more flexibility, especially since
Yeah.
week one, we don't really count that week because unfortunately they were against CBR, and like,
That was
come on, it's
pre-jungle changes as
it's
well.
it's CBR. the like decent team versus when they were completely rookies and had a sub top. Okay, like I'm not really gonna count that one. But I want to see week 3 what their jungler can bring to the table. Maybe it's not Udyr. I mean, that'd be pretty cool. But if he gets Udyr again, I mean, you can just pick it again. You know, why not? Why keep change something that's working, right? Like, just keep
True,
picking what
don't
works
fix
for
what
you.
ain't broke. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
saying.
exactly.
I
So
guess
I'm
that's
gonna
why
say
they
the
keep
jungler,
picking him Udyr. I don't know.
and I just want to say one thing. I'm looking at this guy's match history, and his last ranked game was Lee Sin. And all I've got to say is, if this guy locks in Lee Sin,
No. No.
yeah,
If you know
yeah.
Shifty, he's not gonna pick Lee Sin. You know him too well for that.
Yeah, just pick him Lee Sin, Shifty. If you want to win the game, you pick that
True.
champ.
I
I
don't know if
promise you'll get a win.
I don't know if he listens to these, but I wanna see the Lee Sin. I'm gonna tell him, before the
Yeah,
game. I
dude,
wanna see
he
Lee
went
Sin.
11-6-6.
Still,
Kind of
he's
smurf.
still not gonna pick it for him.
Okay, wait, never mind. Okay, their ADC was 18-1. Okay, so we're just don't pick the Lee Sin. Never
Don't
mind, I
pick
lied.
Lee Sin. Don't pick Lee
Pick
Sin.
something that's not Udyr.
Yeah, and I think too, like that's interesting because again, like the jungle nerfs that we talked about last week, Udyr has already fallen out of that meta of where you just need to, like just farm as fast as you can.
Mhm.
And I'm not entirely like sure. I don't know his most familiar or I don't know his comfort picks. It's like, well, he's most played Viego right now, and then it's Udyr, and then Evelyn.
It's Udyr. It's Udyr.
It's just
That's his most
Udyr.
played.
Oh.
There's a 90% win rate on Udyr. How was this not banned, by the way? Like, did we just like not ban it?
Dude,
You
yeah,
know,
he keeps getting Udyr and no one's banning it from him, and
it's
he has a high win rate in it. In solo queue, it's like his almost his most played. It's like
oh my god,
our team
guys, he played
scouting
Shaco
or
jungle.
playing.
Oh,
Nunu? All right, well, just something that isn't Udyr. This guy's a 90% win rate on Udyr in 10 games. I'm hoping they're playing Rev.
Yeah.
I'm hoping Rev, might do some scouting and see that the Udyr is a 90% win rate and think about it. Because I mean,
That
apparently last
Udyr.
week wasn't really thought about a little bit. But I mean,
Yeah.
hey, you know, sometimes that happens. You think the Udyr doesn't do anything, and to be honest, it didn't look like it 1v9. But Udyr is so disgusting, man. Like I hate that champ.
Yeah, and they also picked they picked Yasuo Wukong, and that Wukong
Yeah,
popped off, and then that just kind of helped
for sure.
Yasuo, and then I think another big pick for them was Kaisa actually. They had Kaisa
Mhm.
Morgana, Tesla Model 3 played. Kaisa went 11-1-8 and like
It's pretty insane.
yeah, it's just I don't know. I think that like with how Chicago Dragons plays, I think Kaisa was a really good pick for him because like if they're just good at going in and just like running and killing people, I don't know. Kaisa's got a nice big button for that.
Mhm.
So I think my player to watch would still be a Tesla Model 3. Yeah, and what about you, Matt Pizza?
um,
Oh wait, did you already go? Yeah, you said they're top laner.
yeah. I was
Okay.
like, wait a minute. I thought,
Okay. Sorry, Rev. Matt Pizza.
yeah. Okay, a revolution, right? Okay.
Yes.
So, I'm not entirely sure about this one, right? Because week one Rev was a scary, scary team to look at, right? Their jungler was like basically conducting everything, right? The jungler was like, all right, this is what's gonna happen. We're gonna jungle gap him. We're gonna win. That's what's going on. But with the jungle nerfs, he kind of like took a back seat, and like now they just kind of need to find a new identity, right? Like, how are they gonna win games? Is it your mid? Is it your bot? Is it your top? Like, but from what I've seen, I'm gonna say that it's gonna be the mid laner, Lynx, right? He's the veteran on the team, so he'll know things that the newer players won't. So I hope that Lynx will be able to
Yeah, I think he still played really well in the series last week against MIT. Like, I know they still lost 0-2, but I still think he played really well. I think my player to watch for them, it's hard to say. Like, I feel like you said, like their standout player really was their jungler, and then I think their support was playing really well on Leona and just kind of like those aggressive supports. And
Mhm.
then they put them on Nami. Like, did you ask for Nami? I don't know. Like, you were playing Leona super well, and then they also played Rel, but that game went a little south.
yeah.
against Caitlyn Morgana, which was a really good. I think it was a really good pick against the Rel, but yeah, like I was a bit disappointed in the Nami pick, not because I think they're bad at Nami, but it's like I just saw them play so well on Leona and just kind of getting their team ahead, becoming like a second jungler, really.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was something that really helped them in their success the first week. So I think my eyes would go back to their support, Mystic Azzy. Azzy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about you, Clutch?
Um, oh, I'm gonna not pick any single player on the roster. Instead,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna pick their coach. I don't if they have a coach. If they don't, then just void whatever I'm about to say and just say I'm talking about the entire team. Um, but whoever is in charge of this team, I want you to tell them uh, to be more proactive because when I watched them play MIT, they
Mm-hmm.
kind of just like rolled over and died. Like they were okay with just like sitting there and it's like
Oh, we're
okay,
losing, and then that was it.
yeah, and they didn't
Oh.
really like try to get back into the game. So what I want to see this week is them making plays because guess who they are up against? And guess who is really good at early game? Chicago Dragons.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
you need to do something or you are not going to have a good time because Chicago Dragons are very active in the early game. And they're probably the most active team in the league in the early game. They like to get things done. They're not going to sit there and just be like, well, we'll wait for 30 minutes. If Rev does that, they could lose this series. But Rev, I want them to see that, or I want to see them take it to Chicago. Chicago, if they can get their game plan where they want to take it to you, they want to control the map, they are going to win this series. But Rev, I think individually has the better players. So if they match what Chicago's doing and they also decide to just, you know what, they're coming after us, let's go after them. I think Rev should win this series. They're just the better players. They should have it easily in the bag. However, they need to do something. Don't just sit around and wait. Go in. So my player to watch is if the coach, I don't know if they have one, or just every single player.
Yeah, and I think another thing I want to point out is like their top lane and their mid lane matchups and their solo lanes. So, like I mentioned in my power rankings, I think Revolution's mid laner, Lancer Keith, was one of like one of their more standout players and who played like really well. And I think that Skeet was already a player that also played really well. He's like one of the stronger players in Chicago Dragons. And I think that I don't know, I feel like whoever kind of wins that mid lane matchup will kind of like decide how the game goes. Same with the top lane matchup, like this Noodle versus Ziliak. Like I don't think Ziliak popped off in either game against MIT. So I think that's kind of my more like, is this a weak point for Revolution? Is this like an opening for Chicago Dragons? Is this like an avenue for them to really kind of sneak in the win or like the whole series even? I know I said 2-0 for Revolution, but like I don't know, considering what you said, Clutch, I could definitely see Chicago Dragons pulling ahead 2-1 or even 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we will go on to the next and final game of the week. It's our stream game, which is CB Rookies versus Subversive Gaming. So obviously, CB Rookies is undefeated in series. They are 2-0, and Subversive Gaming, they are 1-1, winning first week against MIT, losing second week to Chicago Dragons. Matt Pizza, you said 2-1 CB Rookies. So if you want to,
Mm.
yep, go ahead.
Yes, I did. Um, so Chubby Berries rookies, right? They're a scary, scary team to look at, right? Um, because right now they're the only team that's undefeated. So going up against them, it's a real you're playing against like really strong team, and it might be kind of scary to play against them, right? Like you might just go into the mindset that oh they're just better, or it might just be the fuel you need to win the game, right? That you're like oh we're going up against the kings, we gotta topple them, we gotta take them off their
Yeah,
throne.
this
So
this is this is the underdog story. Like I really think that Subversive is kind of fighting an uphill battle right now because they're like, hey, we beat one of the really strong teams, but then we lost to one of like the supposedly weaker teams. You know, now we have to
Mm-hmm.
go against the undefeated team. So I think that Subversive is up and down. Like they're kind of on this roller coaster of teams right now. And I
mhm.
don't think their season is like this pattern of teams they're going against is very easy at all.
Yeah, but I I still have to say that CB rookies are gonna come out on top just because of how well they've been playing, right?
I think
So.
yeah, they are on that like they're kind of like their momentum really is high right now. They're like we won our first series, we won our second series, we're undefeated, and they're looking really really good for playoffs right now because they are 2-0.
Hmm.
Like even if they lost the rest of their game like their games and the rest of their series, I think they would still maybe make playoffs just because they started off so well. It would depend though. I did say 2-1 for Subversive. I said 2-1 for Subversive mostly because I think that Subversive is starting to come in like you said, like they're coming into this uphill battle, and I think that Subversive plays really well as like a cohesive 5-man unit, like I said before, and like I think that coming out of last week's games from Chicago Dragons, they're saying like, I think they're just starting to kind of get everything together and say we're going to win. Like I think they're coming in with a winner's mindset.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're like we kind of learn. I think they learn from their mistakes too, especially against Chicago Dragons because they played. I think that Chicago Dragons plays a very different style than MIT,
Hmm.
and I think that like they've gone against those two polar opposites, and I think they're ready to take what they learned from both and just adapt and win against CB rookies.
Yep.
But yeah, so Clutch, you said 2-0 for CB rookies.
Yes, I did. I think CB rookies. Um, I think if they have swag in the jungle, they should be able to beat Subversive. Not saying that Subversive is a bad team. I think it's going to be a lot like the BFE MIT series, where it is going to be a 2-0, but I don't think it'll be a stomp. I think Chubby Babies rookies or CB rookies, however you like to call them, are going to win. But I think it's going to be pretty close games in both of them.
Yeah, I think this is a really great series to watch, and like I'm glad that we're streaming this one because, again, like Subversive is coming in with this like uphill battle, and CB rookies either has to like beat Subversive, who I think is starting to swing up high in their momentum, and CB rookies is either going to take their first loss or, like, we see a full 3-game series on stream, which we haven't yet because apparently it's the caster curse and we only get the 2-game series.
True.
Like, how come it's every week there's only 1-2-0 and it's always the stream game?
That's
It's
just
just
how
how
it
it
is,
is.
man. I rig it. I rig it. I rig it.
Well, you heard it here, folks. It's rigged. EDL's rigged.
Yeah.
If you're on stream, it's a 2-0. For who? I don't know, but it's a 2-0. So, yeah, I definitely think it's gonna be a really good series. And okay, so for players to watch, I will start with Subversive. And Matt Pizza, who's your player to watch in Subversive?
So my player to watch, Subversive Gaming. Um, you know, I gotta go with my top laners, right? Like, yeah, I
Sky and the
just
top laners. Uh-huh.
like playing top lane. It's like at least in solo queue, it's so like you just don't feel good. You don't feel like you're doing anything. But in comp, right? I want to see if this top will be able to impact the map as much as he can, right? Like top laners that impact the map, whether they're playing like carries or if they're playing tanks or utility, right? Those are usually the tops that have more success in comp games rather than the tops that are just like I'm just gonna do whatever and like my team will win for me. Like I don't need to do anything. So my player to watch is the top laner.
Yeah, I think Roland is definitely one of the really good players on Subversive. He is
Hmm.
also their team captain, and like, I don't know, the champions he's played in last week. I don't know, kind of looks like your champ. Well, he played Mordekaiser, and then Ornn,
Yeah.
and then
Uh,
Mordekaiser. So,
I'll be honest. I played Ornn today for our comp game, and
Oh
oh
no 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 no
no,
let's
no no
just
no no!
say
Let's not talk about it. Let's not talk
let's
about
just
it.
say we can make a highlight clip of the amount of Onars I miss.
oh no, I should really pull up the clip for next week. My
No,
Caius Pizza the Third. I wish I should just pull it up right now, but I don't have the stream set up that way.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
I
that's
do
my
think he's
player.
a good player.
Yeah, that's my player to watch on Subversive.
I think then for me, I really like their bot lane. Like, so like in their first game, Snowy went 10, 3, and 8 on Jinx, and Shadowfax went 1, 2, and 19 on Thresh. So I think that maybe like was there like a oh no, that was the game they won. So like I think that their bot lane was definitely a big win condition for this team. Like if they get resources and Snowy plays a lot of scaling ADCs, so I think that if they're able to play like those scaling ADCs and get to that mid to late game, and I think that's why they lost against Chicago Dragons because like Clutch said earlier, Chicago Dragons they're so active during the early game, like they just go 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 right, and
Mm-hmm.
Subversive they play super well as a team, but in early game, like if they fall behind and like what Chicago Dragons did, if that happens to them, it's hard for them to come back because like they wait for the mid to late game where they really shine as a team. And I think that Snowy and Shadowfax as a bot lane, they play together really well and they have that synergy. And I think that if they're able to get ahead a bit earlier and like obviously that's how I can see like it really contributed to how they won in the first game too. So I just think that if they get those resources, they're able to really win the series for them.
Yep.
So what about you, Clutch?
Uh, the game. Who's like? What are we talking
For the
about?
this, who do you think is the player to watch
Oh,
for
player to watch
Subversive? For
for
Subversive,
Subversive.
yeah.
Okay. Who did we say so far? So I don't pick the same
Uh,
one.
Matt Pizza said top laner Roland. I said their bot lane Snowy and Shadow.
Okay, so both of them. Okay. I am gonna say their mid laner took him his prime. I believe he played last week, correct?
Yep,
Wrong.
they did.
Okay. I think he played Seraphine, correct?
Yep, Seraphine
Okay.
in the game
So
they won.
this guy reminds me of a very supportive mid laner, kind of like Lynx. I think they are both kind of the same, where they like to play a lot of these utility mids, Oriana, Seraphine, where you really don't win lane, but it doesn't really matter because you're more of a supportive role on your team, which to me personally, I like a lot of supportive players. I mean, I am a support, but supportive mid laners are very nice to have, especially if you're that carry player. And you just have a mid laner that's willing to sacrifice everything and play around you, and really enable you to do literally anything you want. And I think Tukumis Prime is a very good prime example of that, where he plays a lot
I
of
see
these.
what you did there.
Yeah, where he plays a lot of these supportive mids and really tries to enable his team and has a lot of you know good playmaking ability in the mid lane. So definitely gonna be looking
Yeah,
for
and
him.
then and like I mentioned in my power rankings, I definitely think Ryma's their jungler. Like in their first game that they won, their KP was 20 out of 26, I believe. Yeah, 5, 3, and 15 on J4. They had the same KP as Shadow, the support.
Yeah. So
So yeah, like I think
just to
if they play around their bot lane, like that could help kind of
mhm,
accelerate and like what I was talking about before.
yeah. And one thing I want to say, if you have like over, I don't know, like 70% KP as a player, that means you are really like you are in all of your team's plays, because that is like ridiculous. If you have like above 70%, it means that you're making a lot of the plays and that you are at least influencing how they go. Even if you like it doesn't really go the best, at least you are there and you are helping out your team. 70% is a lot. People don't think like 70% is a lot, but like to me, anything above that is like pretty
It's
crazy. It means you are
yeah.
like in a lot of your team's plays. So that's just one thing I wanted to add
Yeah,
when you were
and
talking about
okay, so
KP.
then we'll go through chubby babies or CB rookies. I think I'll just go. I think their player to watch is it's a bit hard for me to say. Like I think that their one of their good players is obviously like Rook Cauldron. I don't know if Pitiful's gonna play this week. He is a sub. They do have a new top laner, replacing Chef Boy. So I don't know. It's hard for me to say because like CB rookies, Brave X played a lot of they played Vayne twice and then they played Kaisa and they did super well on Kaisa. So like I think that if see like the thing is CB rookies, Brave X plays a lot of scaling ADCs as well, right? So I think that whoever is able to get resources into their ADC first will be able to help decide the game. So I think my eyes would be on Brave X actually. What about you, Matt Pizza?
Okay. Um, looking at chubby babies, probably gonna say Lil Rodney, right? Only because with Chef Boy out of the page, their solo laners are gonna be kind of weaker. So I want to see if Lil Rodney would be able to step up and like just absolutely tear up the competition. So that's my player to watch. What
Yeah,
about you,
I
Cole?
remember when I talked to MIT, they also mentioned Little Rodney, like he was a very, or she, I don't know,
Mhm.
they were a good player, and like I feel like they're just kind of being overshadowed a little bit by everybody else on their team, especially just with the nature of Pitiful like swapping in and out and like Chef Boy leaving. But
Yeah.
I think that Little Rodney deserves a lot more recognition than we're giving them right now. But I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yep, and Clutch, your closing
Um,
thoughts?
I I was just gonna say their bot lane. I think they are the sleeper bot lane. I even said this last week. I think they're one of the best bot lanes in the league, but don't get any recognition because everyone just talks about Swag and Chefboy. And with Chefboy being gone, um, now we can talk a lot more about the other players on the team. The spotlight
Mm-hmm.
was obviously on Chefboy, best player on the team. Him being gone opens up a lot more of a carry role, and I think this bot lane is ready to step up to that. I think they've been playing well. They've been quietly doing their job. They've both been playing extremely well for me, and we'll see how they do this week up against their opponent, Subversive.
Yeah, I agree with you. And unfortunately, we don't really have a lot of time to go through any questions, so yeah, that's about all the time we have for the pregame show today. Make sure you stick around for a stream match, CB Rookies versus Subversive Gaming. It's gonna be a really good series,
For
and
sure.
yeah, we'll see if CB Rookies can continue their win streak and stay undefeated, or if Subversive can just take that win away from them, and we'll see. So, and yep, so please stick around. Hopefully, we'll see you guys there in the stream match. And that's all the time we have for today. Peace.